Welcome back to the Enfield Talking newspaper. Now we return to local news with Janet.
A government inspector has told the Latimer School in Edmonton it must reverse its decision to ban a 16-year-old from its sixth form. Following an investigation by the local government ombudsman, teachers at the school in Haysby Road have been told that they had breached Latimer's own administration's admissions policy and must accept the teenager into Year 12. The pupil was suspended from the school in April for bad behaviour, and in a letter to his parents were told that he had not met the requirements to join the sixth form and so would have to continue his education elsewhere. Following the ruling, the student's father contacted the ombudsman, who began an investigation into the decision. In a ruling announced, the ombudsman found the school was in breach of its own admissions policy by withdrawing the offer of a sixth form place based on the pupil's behaviour in Year 11, before he had sat his GCSEs. According to Latimer's own rules, academic achievement and not behaviour should be given consideration when deciding whether to admit pupils into the sixth form. In her ruling, the local government officer, Dr. Jane Martin, said, the government school admissions code specifically prohibits the school from selecting sixth form pupils based on their behaviour records. As the boy had satisfied the academic requirement to join the sixth form, he should have been admitted. She added that the school should admit the boy into the sixth form straight away and concluded her report by saying the teenager has satisfied the academic requirements to join the sixth form. Beyond that, the school cannot place any condition on the offer of a sixth form place. The school was unavailable for comment.
This next article is accompanied by a photograph of Barry and June Smitherman watching their youngest volunteer, young chap, cleaning the duck pen, sweeping it out with a broom, helped by a goose in the foreground. The couple who run London's only wildlife animal hospital say they desperately need donations and volunteers to continue their work. The centre, which is based in Trent Park, rescues and rehabilitates sick and injured birds, hedgehogs, goats, deer and farm animals, as well as many others. The centre receives animal casualties all year round, and once rehabilitated, the creatures are usually released into the wild. However, the centre houses some animals too sick to cope by themselves, and at any one time there are at least 160 animals in permanent care. Barry Smitherman, who runs the centre with his wife June, says they are short of volunteers, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays. He described the work as very rewarding outdoor work. He said that this year has been particularly hard and added, "We had a very bad start to the year because 70% of our income is through visitors and the bad weather reduced the numbers. Winter is the hardest for us and we're going through it with a lot less money. The bottom line is that the more volunteers we have, the more sick and injured animals we can save and the more good we can do. We really are stretched to the limit at the moment. We're desperate for volunteers to help out and save lives." Mr. and Mrs. Smitherman have been running the centre voluntarily since 1985 and were made MBEs in 2005. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Chris Bond, said, "The Wildlife Rescue and Ambulance Service charity does a wonderful job of caring for sick and injured animals, and we'll continue to support it for as long as we can. But I'd urge animal-loving residents, or simply those who like the great outdoors, to give up a few hours if they can to help this fantastic organisation out."
Now, this could be the most important item that's appearing on this week's tape. And it tells us that lottery chiefs are searching for the owner of a winning ticket worth £70,428, which remains unclaimed. The ticket, which was bought in Enfield, matched 5 numbers and the bonus ball in the lotto draw on Wednesday, the 10th of October. The winning numbers on that date were 15, 19, 23, 29, 30, 46, and the bonus ball was 2. There were loads of people shouting house here, but I don't think it's one of those. The owner of the ticket has until the 8th of April next year, 2013, to collect the prize. Otherwise, the money will go to the National Lottery Good Causes Fund, which is run by me. A National Lottery spokeswoman said, "We are desperate to find this mystery ticket holder and unite them with their winnings. This amazing prize could make a huge difference to somebody's life. We are urging everyone to check their tickets again or look anywhere that missing tickets might be hiding. Try checking the pockets of clothing, in wallets, bags, and down the back of the sofa. Someone out there could literally be sitting on a fortune. We have the champagne on ice, and our fingers crossed that the lucky winner comes forward to claim their winnings." In order to jog residents' memories, Enfield Town were beaten 3-2 at home by East Thurrock United in the Ryman League Premier Division that day before the draw. And a week before it, theatre lovers may have visited the Millfield Arts Centre to watch a production of Romeo and Juliet. That's the important telephone number here. Call the National Lottery line on 0845 910 0000 if you think you have the winning ticket. I'll repeat that number again because it could matter. 0845 910 0000. Good luck to you all.
Colin Cosser left school at 15 without any qualifications after his headmaster labelled him a dunce. This month he's launched his first novel, On Wings of Song, which is proving a hit with fans of historical fiction all over the world. The headmaster said to my mother, "You can't do anything with him, he's a dunce," remembers Colin, who lives in Bushill Park. It stays with you, right in the back of your mind. I left school without any qualifications. It was typical of that age. It was a case of, if you don't pass your 11 plus, you're only good for cleaning out lavatories. The 75-year-old, originally from Salisbury, went into the printing supplies trade after school, but always found time to write. Proving his early critics wrong, at the age of 40 he studied for O and A levels, later attaining a BA in English literature from the University of Hertfordshire. On retirement, Collins studied for an MA in creative writing at Middlesex University. Nowadays it's totally different. There's so much opportunity. In my day there was nothing, he says. I just thought, I'll have a go at that. Set in the 1920s, On Wings of Song tells the story of Prudence Osmond, who at the age of 16 is wrongly committed to an asylum, the victim of a hate campaign by a wealthy woman who wants revenge because her late husband had an affair with Prudence's mother. In the asylum, Prudence is subjected to cruelty and sexual abuse, but with the help from an unlikely source, she learns to conquer her nerves and become stronger. Her beautiful voice is set free, a talent she uses to influence her newfound grandmother and the matron of the asylum. The Asylum of Colin's story is based loosely on Coney Hatch Lunatic Asylum in Barnet, after extensive research into the treatment of patients. I once had to put in printing machinery at Coney Hatch. The miles and miles of corridors really struck me. The people wandering about in there. You'd be walking along a corridor and somebody would suddenly jump out on you. All quite harmless, but it was quite an eye-opener. It stuck with me for quite a while. Colin's research unearthed a shocking catalogue of abuse and maltreatment. It surprised me how bad it was, he says. It was shocking. An awful lot of people got put in there when they should never have been. A lot had breakdowns and they just put them away, and that's where they stayed. There were people in Coney Hatch before it was closed down that had been there for 30 years, and all they'd done was upset their parents. There was a particular case that had special resonance with Colin. His own aunt was institutionalised. It was a story that was passed on to you as a child, but it was because she was acting erratically. These days they would give her some drugs and that would be it. She never came. The book is receiving rave online reviews and a sequel has already been written. All these years later, the grandfather of 4 has certainly proved his doubters wrong. Being labelled a dunce, it's just that feeling that wrangles with you, he said. It's always irked me, but I had a go and here it is. It's been downloaded all over the world. It's mind-boggling. On Wings of Song is available in paperback and for Kindle from amazon.co.uk.
A recycling centre in Winchmore Hill is due to reopen following a £225,000 refurbishment. The Barrel Green Household Waste and Recycling Centre in Barrel Green is expected to open next week after Enfield Borough Council replaced damaged concrete flooring and containers for green waste. Work to improve the flow of traffic has also been completed after drivers said waiting times were too long and new road markings have been painted. The centre was closed throughout October while the work went ahead. Cabinet Minister for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "Barrel Green is a popular and well-used facility, and we decided to carry out some essential maintenance to the site during one of the quieter months to keep it in tip-top condition and make sure it would continue to meet the needs of residents." This work meant the site can continue to provide a high-quality service to our residents and play a vital role in helping us to manage our waste for years to come.
Ballerina Marion Tate returned to her former school to open a new exam hall recently. Miss Tate visited Palmer's Green High School in Hoppers Road to unveil the Elizabeth Smith Hall. The hall, which has taken more than a year to complete, will provide an improved space for students in which to take their exams. It was the first time prima ballerina Miss Tate, who was made an OBE in 1992 and a CBE in 2003, had visited the school since she left 46 years ago. She said, "Walking around the school and meeting all the girls and staff, I can see that the school has not lost any of its key characteristics, which for me was the inspirational teaching, and because of its size, the real sense of intimacy. I wish all the girls every success and encourage them to always aim to be the best they possibly can be." Head teacher Christine Edmondson said, "Everyone from the youngest pupil to the oldest guest greatly enjoyed Miss Tate's visit. She was truly inspirational and a wonderful example of success springing from aspiration, dedication and hard work." The dancer, who is the assistant director of the Birmingham Royal Ballet, has performed in ballets including The Sleeping Beauty and Romeo and Juliet. The hall was named after Elizabeth Smith, who was a former pupil and governor of the school until she died in 2007.
Scorching heat, no water for miles around, and sand stretching as far as the eye can see. The Sahara Desert is a far from inviting prospect, with sub-zero nighttime temperatures and searing daytime conditions. But Glenn Daniels has to conquer more than these natural obstacles before he can complete his charity challenge of crossing 103 kilometres of punishing terrain. The dad of three of Central Avenue, Enfield, suffers from a degenerative genetic eye condition that has affected his sight since childhood and has forced him to apply for a guide dog. It was during this process that he realised the huge burden of fundraising placed on the charity. They get no money from the government and it takes £50,000 to train a guide dog, said Glenn, as he explained his determination to complete the challenge. The 32-year-old osteopath, who was registered blind in 1996, is embarking on the trek with a walking partner who will help him with some of the trickier practical aspects of the challenge. Glenn is setting out in March next year and is undergoing a gruelling training regime with workouts at the David Lloyd Centre in Carter Hatch Lane, Enfield, 3 times a week, and weekend walks. I usually go out with my 11-year-old son on a Saturday or Sunday, and we do part of the London Loop, which is a walking route all round London with very clear, well-defined signs, so it's easy for us to navigate, he said. I'm up to 4-hour walks, and they will be getting longer and longer in the lead-up to the expedition. To help him build the strength needed to walk for between 6 to 8 hours a day, the team at David Lloyd has designed a program specifically for Glenn. You just need a pre-programmed key, so you don't have to worry about adjusting the machine yourself, he said. The weight machines have a system where you can increase and decrease the resistance without having to physically put on weights or fiddle about with a pin or anything. Glenn is also organising a series of fundraisers for the Guide Dogs for the Blind Association UK. They are a mini-family run day at Raglan Junior School in Bush Hill Park on the 17th of November, a charity quiz night on November the 27th at the Holt Whites Club in Holt Whites Hill, Enfield, and a pamper evening at Pure Hair and Beauty in Windmill Hill, Enfield on December the 4th.
A young thug who threatened a bus driver in Enfield when confronted about not having a valid fare has been jailed for 8 months. Dries Dolan, 22, from Tottenham, was found guilty of a fray and sentenced to the prison term at Wood Green Crown Court. Dolan got onto a number 329 bus in Jennerton Road, Enfield on May the 4th, 2011 and failed to provide a valid fare. He was challenged by the bus driver to present a ticket or Oyster card, after which he threatened and verbally abused the driver and an elderly passenger before running away. The incident was reported to Transport for London Workplace Violence Unit, and Dolan was identified through CCTV footage obtained from the bus company. He was arrested on September the 2nd last year, and his home address searched, where the same T-shirt he had worn during the incident was seized. He was later charged with the fray. The 22-year-old appeared at Wood Green Crown Court on September the 10th, 2012, and the jury returned a hung verdict. A retrial started on October the 8th, and this time the jury found Dolan guilty of a fray on October the 16th. Superintendent Stuart Traylor of the Met Police's Safer Transport Command said, "Dolan put the driver and an elderly passenger in fear, and thanks to the use of the bus CCTV and a thorough investigation, we were able to identify Dolan, leading to his conviction and substantial jail sentence." Steve Burton, Director of Community Safety, Enforcement and Policing, Surface Transport at Transport for London, said, "Our staff have the absolute right to work without fear of attack. Although these attacks are thankfully rare, we will continue to work with our policing partners and pursue those people who attack our staff, pushing for the harshest possible penalty."
Campaigners fighting the latest proposals for a housing development in Cat Hill. Members of the Campaign for Cat Hill will be discussing how to fight off a property developer's second attempt at gaining permission to build on the former Middlesex University campus in Cat Hill. Housing Association L&Q saw its first proposals for a 250-home development rejected by Enfield Council in March, following fierce protests by members of the Campaign for Cat Hill, who argued that the development was too dense and would endanger wildlife. Throughout the application process, members staged a high number of high-profile protests, including a 67-hour sit-in outside the site. L&Q, which owns the Cat Hill site, claims have addressed the Council's Planning Committee's concern in its latest application and has cut the number of homes from 250 to 232, while the proposed block of flats have been reduced from 6 to 4 stories. But despite the changes, the campaign group is determined to convince Enfield Planning's Committee to reject the application and has attracted the support of Conservative Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows, along with Labour's London Assembly member for Enfield and Haringey, Joanne McCartney. Campaign leader Kim Coleman said she was grateful for the backing of both politicians. "Every single person who supports us is another person that the council has got to listen to. We are anxious that people would have lost interest this time around, but it seemed that's not the case at all. People who have had the opportunity to look at the plans agree that they are just a few cosmetic changes."
And now here's another story about an ex-pupil of Palmer's Green High School for girls. The Olympic Games have helped a budding singer get one step closer to her dream of becoming a recording artist. Rafaela Mazaheri Asadi, who performs under her first name only, made her first tentative performances in front of friends at Palmer's Green High School for Girls, where she studied classical music. Classically trained, she is now making inroads into the world of pop, and one of her tracks can be heard on Album in the Park, a compilation of the acts who performed on the Emerging Icons stage in the Olympic Park during the Games. Although I was studying classical music and had been learning the piano and violin from a very young age, I always wrote my own songs in my spare time, said the 22-year-old. As well as wowing spectators with her performances, the singer captured the imagination of producers, who selected her to record a song for the commemorative album. It's really exciting to be part of this album, especially as it was already an honour to be given the chance to perform at the Olympics in the first place, said Raffaella. This is my first official release, so it's nice to have something with my name on and something for my fans. The young singer from Whetstone feels that performing at the Olympics has helped her career in a big way. It was such an international crowd, so after my shows, people from all over the world would come up to me and chat about the music, she said. I somehow seem to have gathered a big Spanish following since the Olympics. I've definitely noticed a difference in my fan base, with a lot of more international fans getting in contact. Not everyone got to enjoy Raffaella's performances, however. Her mother and brother were unable to get tickets for any of her 8 appearances in the park. It was so sad because my mum and brother didn't get to watch me perform, as every day I was there it was sold out, she added. Luckily, my dad is my manager, so it was great to share the experience with him.
Enfield Borough Council is checking ash trees for evidence of a serious disease which has been discovered in Suffolk and Norfolk. The highly contagious infection, called ash dieback, can wipe out the affected tree and spread to other ash trees very quickly. The council believes it is unlikely Enfield's trees will be hit by the disease, but it is checking all ash trees it has planted in the past 4 years, as well as places with high concentration of the species, to be safe. Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "We have started the massive task of checking our ash trees for infection. But as one of London's greenest boroughs, we fully acknowledge this will be an enormous task because of the sheer number of ash trees in our borough. While we think the chance of finding disease ash is small, if we find any evidence of this infection, we'll take immediate steps to have the tree removed to stop the spread of infection and arrange for an appropriate tree to be planted in its place." The fungus, also called Cholera fraxinia, wiped out approximately 90% of ash trees in Denmark in 2003. The council said it buys trees from contractors and requests that the trees are brought from UK suppliers. However, it admits there is a small chance a few trees are Dutch or Danish. Symptoms include dead branch tips and leaf loss.
The final phase of the council's waste policy will start this month with the delivery of thousands of new wheelie bins. The new bins are part of Enfield Borough Council's waste policy, which started being implemented 3 years ago. The wheelie bins will mark the final phase of the policy, which the council hopes will increase the borough's recycling rates to 45%. People are receiving their new bins now, and new collections will begin from November the 12th. It is hoped by the completion of the process, the council will save more than £1 million a year by diverting waste away from landfill.
Irish comedian Sean Hughes is bringing his latest show, Life Becomes Noises, to the Millfield Theatre. Freshmen from performing 2 shows at the Edinburgh Festival. The award-winning comic is currently embarking on a national tour. He will be making a stop at the Millfield in Silver Street, Edmonton, on November the 15th. Life Becomes Noises was inspired by the death of Hughes' father last year, and from the moment the lights come up, revealing a hospital bed and Hughes dressed in a slightly inappropriate costume, it's apparent that this is going to be no ordinary comedy performance. Instead, it's a show that looks into the lighter side of dying and getting older and going to places that comedy rarely goes. This largely scripted show is Hughes' way of dealing with bereavement. The 46-year-old comic, who won the coveted Perrier Award at the Edinburgh Fringe, has performed all over the world, as well as written plays, books, and starred in his own television series. He recently has been on our TV screens as Love Rat Pat in Coronation Street. This show, which is on tour for 4 months, marks a return to Comedy Arena for Hughes after a break. Tickets are available from the Millfield box office on 020 8807 6680. I'll give you that number again, 020 8807 6680 to book.
2 schoolboys hand-delivered more than £600 to a charity shop recently. Rhys Chapman and Connor Lennon, both 14, organised a non-uniform day at Enfield Grammar in the town, which raised £610.16. The students and Deputy Head Teacher David Alder donated the money to Cancer Research UK in the town. Shop manager Namish Baxi said, "It's very nice of them and it will go a long way towards helping us beat cancer."
An appropriate item here. An Enfield MP is urging volunteers to sell poppies for this year's Remembrance Day. Enfield North MP Nick Dubois practised what he preached by spending an hour and a half selling poppies in Enfield town. He was joined by Helen Otter, the mother of injured serviceman Jack Otter, who lost both his legs and his right arm after a bomb explosion in Helmand province in 2009. Last year, Enfield raised £30,000 for the Royal British Legion, but the MP hopes the borough will be able to beat this impressive sum. He said the British public are very generous in supporting the British Legion, who do fantastic work. But if you are interested in collecting, please do get in contact. He said many people bought poppies on Saturday, and they are still totting up how much money was raised. Remembrance Day on Sunday the 11th of November remembers members of the armed forces who have died in the line of duty. To volunteer, call the Enfield Poppy line on 07989 142 474. To repeat that, 07989 142 474.
Volunteers have been making their mark on the Chicken Shed Theatre Company's new classroom, which will enable students to get a degree for the first time. The new building is a modern and large Scandinavian-style shed, which will house the third-year students from Middlesex University. The university asked Chicken Shed, based in Chaseside Southgate, to teach the course, enabling students to get a BA in Inclusive Theatre. Volunteers have been writing their names on pebbles, which are being included in the construction of the shed, almost as if to say, "I am a part of the fabric of the building," said Jenny Kettleton, Chicken Shed's volunteer programme administrator, who works with nearly 300 people and had the inspired idea for building the new shed. Volunteers are the foundation of Chicken Shed. Without them, Chicken Shed would not be what it is today, she added. Planning permission for the shed was not granted until August, so building work had to get underway quickly to house the students in September. The project is now well on the way to completion, said theatre manager Francis Thomas. We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Janet, Keith, John, Keith and Robin on the controls, it's goodbye.
Bye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diane Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking newspaper. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.